G'day legends, Jack from Hang Around Oz here. Today we're going to do a DIY video on a crankcase filter, or otherwise known as an oil catch can, and a secondary fuel filter on a Ford Ranger BT50 or Ford Everest. Just received these in the mail, so we're going to go ahead and chuck them in the car this morning and take you guys along for the ride. Let's unbox and see what's inside. So a couple of fuel hoses, a couple of PCV hoses for your crankcase, a bracket. So this is for the catch can. The catch can comes with a 3mm bracket and this is a 2mm bracket, so you have to change those over. I'll show you how to do that. Get a bucket of, a box of catch can components, all nicely labelled inside there. And a bracket and fuel filter components box as well. So that comes with your thread locker, all your components for your fuel filter, some zippy ties, some bungs and all that sort of stuff, and all the bolts that you need. Lastly, we've got the specific bracket. So what Ryco did with the Ford Ranger was they actually 3D scanned the engine bay. So anyone that owns a Ranger, BT50 or an Everest will know, just from looking under the bonnet, there's not a lot of room. So what Ryco did, they 3D scanned it. They found up near the fuse box on the, as you look at it on the right hand side of the engine bay, there's a bit of space there, and they made this bracket, and it holds your fuel filter on this side and your catch can on this side, and then you just run all the hose to that. And it's really simple, really good kit. And last thing, you get some fitment instructions. So they look pretty comprehensive, in depth. It does say in here that it should be fitted by a qualified mechanic. Now, I'm an aircraft mechanic by trade. I haven't worked in my trade for quite a few years though, and I was never the best aircraft mechanic. I'll be the first one to come out and say that. But I reckon if I can do this, you guys at home will be able to do this as well. No worries. After that, we've got the fuel filter assembly. So you get some bungs and some install components, and then you get your fuel filter. So what happens with this is it sits before your factory filter. So there's a million reasons why you would have a secondary filter, and you're welcome to go and look those up. I won't spend too long on it, but basically what happens is your fuel comes in, it's filtered through here, and then this glass bowl at the bottom, any water that might be in your diesel will sit in this bulb down the bottom, and that's because water is heavier than diesel. If there's water in here, you can simply open that up and drain the water out, and you can keep track of if you're getting any contaminants in your fuel. Obviously, we're planning to go on a lap to near 3-ton caravan around Australia. So out in some of those more remote places, even around the city, you never know where you're going to get bad fuel, and this is just a little bit of extra peace of mind to make sure that you're not getting any contaminants in your fuel. Oh yeah, and there's your bungs there. And then the crankcase filter, otherwise commonly known as an oil catch can. The reason for that is what manufacturers do these days is, to meet emission standards and things, they reroute some of the blow-by from the engine. So in that blow-by you've got some oil and stuff in your clean air, which is not good for your engine, but to meet emission standards they reroute it back through and it goes through your intake. What happens over time is that will build up, it'll rob you of power and things like that. So what happens is basically that gas is routed through here, goes through. Inside here is just a filter. Looks like any other normal filter. I will do another video before we leave on how to change the filters on this, and also how to change all of the filters on your Ford Ranger. And then it captures all that oily mist and delivers clean air back into your engine. Okay, so you get your filter, your crankcase filter, and because these are actually separate, so you've got to buy these individually. They don't come as a kit. So you buy the RSVK101, and then you have to buy the part number for the crankcase is RCC351, and the part number for the secondary fuel filter or fuel water separator is Z98K16. So if you didn't buy the fitting bracket, because that's all that this is, Ryco actually send you out a factory bracket or a fitting bracket to put in your car if you're just putting a catch can in it, if you don't want the secondary fuel filter. Okay, some basic tools you'll need is just things like pliers for putting on hose clamps. We need some sockets for tightening up the nuts, side cutters or a pair of scissors for cutting off zip ties, and my very technical little box here. So this is for when we chuck the fuel filter in. With the Ranger they've got a self-priming fuel pump, so what you have to do is you just chuck the key onto accessories a couple of times until that fuel primes up through the line. So to capture all that diesel that might spill, I've just cut a milk crate in half, and I'm here by myself doing it, so one-man band today. Let's see how we go. Okay, so that's the bracket all tightened up. I've got the nut on the TX valve, the bolt down there which you can see, and also this nut here on the back of the fuse box. So that bracket is now in, not going anywhere. Now we'll get into setting up the fuel filter. Okay, so next we're just going to fit the supplied hose clamps over the hose, fuel hose. Probably would help if you had actual hose clamp pliers, but I don't. Alright, so we're going to prep the fuel filter now for install. Now there is a diagram, let's get the instructions here. So you'll see, if you can see that, but in here, this diagram here, it shows you the fuel filter head. So we're going to blank off one side and then put the fuel hose connectors on the other. Bit of thread sealant just to make sure they're not going to come out. And obviously you want to make sure you get them on the right way. Sorry about the bin truck. Okay, so that's the two bungs on both sides. Just got my ratchet here, so just nip them up, put it there, nice and tight. And then we'll do the other side, which is the connectors here. So they just go on as is. Bit of thread sealant on there. I just run it all the way around so that you're getting good connection, good lock the whole way around. So that's one thing to note. These will only fit one way. Okay, so gotta make sure you put the right one on, so as in they'll only fit on one side, which I wasn't aware of until just then. Obviously when we go through, we'll make sure that there's no leaks a little bit later. Okay, so we've got to locate on here, so it's this second red one in, the lower one. We've got to take that off and then trace that down under here. We've got a couple of rags handy, and I'm going to take that off and take it out of the car. Alright, so the as you can see, I've got some crap on me. We've taken line off here, traced it back, and it disconnects just down in there next to this bung. There's another fuel line in there. We're going to mount the bracket up, mount the filter to the bracket, then run the cables from the pre-fuel filter to the factory filter and primer up. Okay, so we've installed down in here this fuel line, so that's the coming from the factory tank up to our catch can. Now I've got to do out of the secondary fuel filter into the secondary fuel filter. Now I've got to do out of the secondary fuel filter up to our primary filter. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we've got that filter all connected up. Show you in there. Okay, we've got just this connector is just sitting out, and I've just got my cut out there. So we're going to go and prime the car. Now to prime the car, we've just got to flick it to accessories about 4 or 5 times. So we'll jump in, do that, and then we'll check back. Go back, we'll check that diesel out. So, in here, now you guys see that? Some fresh diesel. So, what we're going to do is we're just going to chuck him on. I'm just going to route him back down. Okay, so he's back on there. So now, let's go and start him, see if she starts. Let's pray we did this right. And good idea, just while it's running like this, I'm just going to go over all those connections, make sure we haven't got any leaks anywhere, and that our fuel isn't, there's no leaks underneath. It's a big one, so we have got a bit of a spot there, but I think that'll just be from where we disconnected the hoses, nothing under pressure. Just go over here and have a quick look for leaks. All appears good. Okay, so catch can comes with this bracket, so it's a 2mm thick bracket, but if you're using the RVS K101, which is the bracket assembly, you need to put in the bracket that come with that bracket kit. So what happens is with your catch can, these just pull apart like so, and you just basically put him on. Do it so you guys can see it there, and that's how they go. And then they just do up, they're just a torque bit, screw, do them up, but we're going to get that in position. Alright, hey guys, so we've got the secondary fuel filter is all hooked up, so just mount up there, runs to the primary filter. I've also got it hooked up to the fuel tank. I've got a long range tank, Brown Davis long range tank on this vehicle. We'll do a rig rundown another time. You'll notice there that the catch can currently doesn't have any hoses attached to it. That's because I've got an appointment that I've got to get to in about half hour, so I'm going to come back and install that catch can hoses, or the catch can is actually installed on the bracket, that's no worries, and that drain hose is run to the bottom, but we'll actually hook it up so that it's catching those blow-by gases either tonight or tomorrow morning. We'll see how we go. So thanks for watching, stay tuned for part 2. G'day guys, so where I left you yesterday, we had the secondary fuel filter installed, the catch can's on and the drain hose is installed, and then this morning what we're going to do really quickly is hook up our hoses to our catch can, because I didn't get a chance to do that yesterday because I had an appointment to go to. I'll quickly run over what we did yesterday and then what we're going to do today. So if I bring you around here, you'll see up under the engine bay here, okay, so that's our fuel filter there. That's all hooked up obviously to our factory filter. We've got our catch can that's installed there, and you'll see down in here there's a drain hose that's run. I've just run that drain hose. You can run this anywhere you want, but for me I just ran it down along the chassis and zippy tied it up there, so you can see it just runs along there. And then what I am going to do is I'm going to just put a drain plug, which is this little one, so I'm going to chuck that on the end of that hose. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to hook up our hoses for our catch can. So what happens with these hoses here is, off your crankcase there, you've got this hose which you'll see is hooked up there, runs down here past your airbox, and it actually hooks back in down here onto your where your air is fed in. Now all you've got to do is pretty simple. One hose, we're going to disconnect that from the crankcase. We're going to put one pipe on that outlet and run it to the catch can, and then from the catch can we're going to run the other hose back to this connector here, but there's a joiner, so this piece here, and we're just going to join the aftermarket hose to the factory hose and should be good. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so once you get that hose off, that's the port just there, that's the hose, and I've pulled this connector for the port off, so this is going to go onto one of our factory hoses, back in the port, and then routed down around the back of the engine there over to our catch can. Right, so setting this pipe up, take the hose clamp off the factory hose because it's just a little bit bigger, and that'll mean that when you put that connector back in, that'll mean that when you put that connector back in, you'll actually be able to get your hose clamp on, because if you use the ones that come in the kit, they won't fit. Okay, so we've hooked that back up. You see him hooked up down there. Hose is routed behind the engine, down there under the aircon pipe and to the catch can. Now we're going to run from this top port here back, same way, and hook it up with the factory hose. So while we're setting this second hose up, just put the joiner in the small end and a hose clamp on there, which will just work up here. and then the large hose clamp goes on the other end, which is where it connects to the catch can. Now, I highly recommend with these hose clamps, you put them facing up, because when you connect the hose onto the catch can, there's not a lot of room to get a pair of pliers or anything in there. Right guys, so just show you once the cover's back on how it all looks. You'll see, so we've got just the engine cover on. The pipe is in there. The joiner's just there. Runs behind the back of the engine. So it's those couple pipes just there. Now, very important, and Ryco stress this, it runs behind this aircon pipe and this aircon pipe. So you'll see they both run through the back there up to the catch can and clamped off. So, well, that's it. That's the install of the catch can and the secondary fuel filter. Takes probably an hour and a half. I reckon you could probably get it done in an hour and a half to 2 hours. Took me a little bit longer, obviously mucking around filming and whatnot. If you got any questions, hit us up, drop a comment, make sure that you press like, hit subscribe, and stay tuned for more. We've got some more videos coming up, prepping for our big lap, and we'll be doing a bit of a walkthrough of the car and also the van.